All right, all right, all right. It's Thursday, and at least in Germany, it's a bit after 4. I guess that's pretty much true for all over Europe, but hey. So welcome to another episode of PKs on Air. My name is Bastian Grimm. I'm your host, and today I am joined by not one, but actually two incredibly smart women that we have dialed in with or by audio, either way. So the one being none other than my good friend and SEO, I would almost say superstar, I guess that's pretty much true, Aleyda Solis, and then from our kind of home turf, so to speak, on the line as well is Dominique Seppelt. So I think before we get into everything, I'm just trying to see if all the streams work, but I guess that should be okay. But meanwhile, a quick shout out, hello to Aleyda and Dominique. Are you here?
Yeah, we're here.
Hello, Bastian. Yes,
Perfect.
I am here too.
Perfect. That sounds good. So I'm just waiting for Dominique. The streams are working. Did you hear anything else?
Yes, it's working. I'm checking on Facebook at the moment, and it's perfectly working. Yes.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing. So I guess then we just get going, since I think last time we ended up instead of half an hour talking for almost an hour. So well, yeah, I guess that's happening. That's happening if you have fun, right? A couple of quick housekeeping notes before we get started. So first of all, thanks for your great feedback on the last episode. That was really helpful, and there were some really cool questions. And based on that, we actually decided to bring in Aleyda, who I will be introducing in a second. But yes, she is, amongst a lot of other things, running a fantastic website called Remotersnet, and I think a lot of questions that we had were around home office and working from home, working remotely. So we thought actually that would be a really good idea to just chat a bit about that topic in more depth, because obviously also as an agency, I think we mentioned it last time, we've been dealing with like this full working from home situation as well, which I think is not as easy as it sounds sometimes, especially if you move like 100+ people into home office from one day to the other. One thing that I want to also mention is last time we streamed on YouTube as well. That's sadly not happening this time. We are still trying to understand why, but for those of you who have been kind of listening to the first show, we were talking around a lot of things, but I guess one of the more controversial topics, I would say, was our chat around Adidas and the situation around them initially refusing to pay up for their rents as part of the Corona help package that the German government actually issued. And I think if I recall correctly, Dominique, we talked probably for like 15 minutes around the situation, right? About like the crisis communication. And I think we also mentioned that we were not overly, I'd say, impressed by how fast they actually reacted with like this message going out in a situation like this.
Exactly. I think it was basically about basically about the right timing of the communication and also the way of communication.
Yeah.
In this case. Well, exactly.
Yeah. So we kind of still trying to figure it out. But what happened is our YouTube account got banned. So apologies for that. We try to figure out what happened, and then we keep you posted on this. But we shall see. We shall see. So before we get into remote working and home office, I'm just probably switching this onto the screen now. If it would be working, it doesn't, but hopefully now it does. So there was a really interesting article that came out on the 7th, so like 2 days ago, by Talkwater actually. And there's a lot of discussion and like also trends around this entire stay-at-home situation. And one thing that I found quite interesting, if you scroll down, and we'll be sharing it in the show notes again, is this graphic in particular, which basically was trying to summarize the main things in terms of discussions and what are the conversation drivers. And I think it was a lot of things like, working from home struggles and, company complaints and, how should a home office setup look like, and generally speaking, probably like topics on, what tips and topics on how to work from home, how to make that more efficient, or maybe just, whatever you can do to stay focused. I think there's a lot of challenges working from home, which basically leads into our topic from today, or for today, either way. And this is also why we brought in none other than Aleyda. So Aleyda, if you wanna do a very, very quick intro, that would be absolutely fantastic. And then I have a bunch of questions that we were very, very keen to discuss with you.
Yes, thank you very much, Bastian, for the invite. And indeed, besides being an SEO consultant, right, I also started to work remotely since I think it was 2012 when I was still an employee, right, as an in-house professional at that time at a bigger company. And then when I moved on and started my own independent consultancy, I stayed remote too, and I was so passionate about remote work that I started Remoters, this website where we have tons of resources to facilitate remote work, a job board, interviews, and I have interviewed tons of people who run remote teams. So, for example, HubSpot, their marketing team is remote completely, right? So a lot of companies that we don't realize are already remote, right? And then also we have tools, we have how-tos. So we have in general resources with the goal, and our mission is to really make it possible for people to start working remotely in an effective way, in a profitable and also in a sustainable way that is also makes their life better in general, and they offers flexibility so they can decide really where they want to work from, and offers them balance. So, for example, of course, right now we are stuck at home, whether we want it or not, right? But for example, if you decide to work while traveling, or if you decide to work from small town or the mountains or the beach, whatever, that this is a type of setting that should allow you to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, I would like to highlight this very particularly because when this happened, I thought, this is the opportunity, of course, like trying to see anything positive out of this, because realistically, in general, is of course health-wise and human-wise is terrible, of course. And then also, of course, the impact in general in business is really bad, unfortunately. But if there was anything positive from a remote work perspective, I thought, okay, this will give the chance to organizations and companies to start working remotely and give it a chance potentially afterwards. However, the main challenge and issue is that the context of the remote work setting, it's not the best, of course. Like, people is super stressed. They are working at home with their children. Many of them, they don't have they didn't have the chance to do a proper transition, so they don't have a specific space at home to work remotely in a comfortable way and in a way that allows them to concentrate and isolate from external noises and issues in general, right? So it's unfortunate that this is the way that many people is starting to work remotely and that is why I believe that indeed it's important and critical to share a few insights and tips to allow them to make it as easy as possible given the situation, right?
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's something that we are seeing as well, right? I guess, I mean, as an agency, and I think Dominique can relate to that. We are quite used to have people work from home, usually like for a day or sometimes even 2 days a week. But I guess the significant difference is that's kind of by own choice, if you so will. And I think also on the other hand, we had a lot of people that said, well, I'd rather go into the office. So as you said, I think it's also a bit of a personal preference kind of situation where you're like, either I like it or I don't. If you're now thrown into this, I have to do it kind of a situation, as you very much correctly said, like without the proper or potentially proper setup, then it might leave a bad taste, right? So I guess that's pretty much true. But that's one of the reasons why I actually wanted to have you, because I think you said like it's now your 8th year, right? The 8th year working remotely. I guess you have seen and done quite a bit, and I guess we have met around the globe, literally everywhere. So I think you're kind of used to work from wherever, right?
Yeah. So this is the thing. Thankfully, in that regard, right? I feel very fortunate because I'm more than used than most of the people to work from home. In fact, I have a room specifically set as a home office only. And ideally, I have to say, if you have an empty room or an available room at home or a room that you can easily reorganize, I will highly recommend to have a room or a space to work from home, because in our mind, this is the thing. One of the things that most people tell me, that they have a challenge concentrating and also disconnecting from work, because especially if they are very used to go to an office, right? This is in their mind still. This is still a space, right?
I agree.
So having a healthy schedule and a balanced schedule with a specific starting time and a specific finishing time too. It's hard. So the easiest way to handle and control that, as well as to allow yourself to concentrate well, is to have set clear boundaries, right? And knowing that when you go to that specific space, to, for example, a specific table that you have set or in a corner of your living room, if you don't have a specific room, right, for that is as isolated as possible, that you have a way to say, okay, I'm sitting here, I start working. And when you leave that space, you also stop working, because it is very easy, especially if you have a laptop, to take the laptop with you and go to the sofa, go to the bed, go to the even kitchen, right? And then you will never disconnect. It is not healthy either, of course. And then on the other hand, you end up not having a life outside work or a balanced type of experience.
that's
right?
true. Yeah, especially if you're probably like a workaholic anyways. I guess that's the other issue there. So Dominique, how are you doing this? Are you do you have your own office space, or are you using a living room or something? What's your way to do it?
I'm super happy that I have my own office space in my apartment. So otherwise, I have no idea how that should work.
very honest answer there, I suppose. But I probably can relate. I'm also in the same lucky situation actually to have a proper office at my house. But at the end of the day, I think what we've seen. So maybe to share a quick story from the peak ACE side of things as well. So when we moved everyone into home office mid of March, I think one of the things that we learned relatively quickly was that so we had, I think the following week we had our IT team touring literally through Berlin, I think 3 or 4 days in a row even, to just deliver things, right? Because people were not equipped for a kind of longer period from working from home or not going back to the office. So I think it ended up even that we kind of had 2 desks being delivered to their personal homes, because if you have shared apartments or setups like this, then I suppose they're just not meant to be proper working spaces. So I think I can totally understand that. But I guess Aleyda, one of your tips then is definitely to kind of find at least a routine, no matter if you have a room or not, but just find a routine that you stick to, right?
Indeed, having a routine is important, and when you start work every day, when you finish it, having a specific place, ideally where you feel comfortable, because realistically you will spend most of the time sitting there. So it cannot, be a chair that you cannot comfortable be sitting at. Of course, at this point, it's very, I can say go and buy online Herman Miller, right? Realistically, this won't be the definitive type of setting for many of the people. So try to find a good chair that you can be sitting comfortably in an ergonomically following ergonomic best practices, right? And then on the other hand, what I will say, I will highly recommend, if you still don't have one, is to have isolating headphones, right? to eliminate noise from the background that will allow you to concentrate better. If you like listening to music, you can listen to music. If not, even having certain type of white noises too can help to concentrate. But the idea here is that when you are working, you're actually working, right? And that this doesn't affect in a negative way your productivity. This is the tricky part, right? On one hand, you want to be productive. On the other hand, since you cannot go out to socialize, those of us who are more extroverted than introverted, we need to, you have this feeling, right, of isolation, and we still want to keep connected with others, right? And so a balance is important for that. I will say that I would recommend to follow also some productivity frameworks. So for example, I use the Pomodoro Technic that will allow me to focus. So for example, every day, what I will say, like, you have your priority tasks, those that you really want to get done in this day, and then the ones that are super important to have done also this week or in the following days. And then you can use an Eisenhower diagram to prioritize them if they are important and urgent, or only important but not urgent, and likewise, right? So you can prioritize, and then use a Pomodoro technique so you give 20 minutes of your time to get away or to execute a specific task. And you know that in this 20 minutes, you will be concentrated completely on this task. And then after those 20 minutes, you know that you will have 5 minutes of a break. So in those 5 minutes, you can go to, I don't know, the bathroom to refresh yourself.
Get a coffee.
To get a coffee.
Exactly.
And then after 4 Pomodoros, those 20-minute slots for tasks, you will have 20 or 25 minutes of a break. Right. And in this 25 minutes, I will say, okay, that's great. You can do a little bit of exercise. You can go and start walking. If you are allowed, if you are in a country that is allowed, you can go and walk around your building or whatever, just to disconnect from time to time, because also be staring all the time to your computer is also not positive or healthy either.
Okay, yeah, understood. That makes sense. I mean, that's probably true for the task planning is probably true in any case, right? I think what I feel, at least, and I'm curious if you agree, I think what's harder for most people, and you mentioned the word focus in the very beginning as well, I think is the discipline, right? To just to stick with a task and not be interrupted, and then just like, oh, well, I can do this meanwhile, or I can do some, I don't know, laundry and whatnot next to it. So I think this is like the focus and discipline to actually execute, I feel, it's what's one of the biggest challenges, right?
Indeed, 100%. And this, you touch a very important point. Just because we are at home, that doesn't mean that we are allowed to, or we should be wanting to multitask doing home-related stuff, like indeed to do laundry or to cook at the same time that you're trying to do a conference call, right? No. Yeah. This is why it's important to have your space, and you know that when you are in this space, you are working, and you should establish boundaries, right? So the other people from home, they know that, sorry, but you cannot come and ask me for anything unless it's something urgent, like the same type of scenarios for which they will call you at work, right? Because something critical is happening at home, right? But otherwise, you are at home. It's just a coincidence that you're working from there, right? But you are actually working on one hand, and then of course you can use your breaks or your lunchtime to cook your proper food.
Because I had to cook, exactly.
Of course, so actually, you have that as a something positive, right?
The way to the kitchen is way shorter, that's for sure,
Indeed. That is something good, right? On the other hand. And then I have to say, this is the other thing that I have noticed, and many people have told me, and even myself, not because of me, because I used to work remotely, but I see this from the side of my clients, right? There is this need, even if you're not by nature extroverted, but there is this need at this point to over-communicate, because since people are working from home sometimes for the first time, there is this need in them to show to others that they are actually working sometimes, right? Or to feel connected, because they lack of this human connection and touch, right? And of course, that is completely understandable and it's good. But that doesn't mean also that you will spend half of your time chatting over Slack or doing Zoom calls, right? Doing Zoom, because Zoom calls is like having meetings. And of course, you don't want to spend half of your day having meetings because you need to execute at some point.
I kind of feel guilty now, I guess, because I think I spent my entire week in Zoom calls. At least that's how it felt. But you're totally correct on that. So I mean, Dominique, you're running one of the our largest teams actually. I guess for you, there might be some additional challenges. So how can you quickly share how you organize your day? I guess because I think one thing is if you work as a consultant and you're kind of integrating yourself into a larger workforce, or you have specific tasks and things to be done. But if you're managing I'd say a larger team, and that especially in the situation like now, so kind of remotely. So how do you organize yourself? How do you run your day?
Yeah, I think so. One of the most important things for me is also setting up focus times for every day, where I have blocking my calendar for 1 or 2 hours per day, which are completely blocked, and where I'm not reading any kind of emails or WhatsApp messages or Teams and whatever. So where I'm pretty into executing my stuff, what I need to do. And so this is for my tasks. But as you mentioned, the team is huge. There are a lot of managers and people in the team, which needs to be organized as well. So for me, super important over there is the communication via Jira tickets and Kanban boards. So whenever I start my day, one of the most important things is to not start a day with any kind of calls or meetings before that, because that happens to everybody, of course, sometimes. But for me, it's super important to have at least 30 minutes to start the day, to structure the day, to take a look on current projects, to take a look on the Kanban boards we have, or you can use, of course, Jira Kanban boards, or Asana or Trello. It's everything the same. But we have structured that in the team for different kind of chapters and squads, let's say. So for different kind of project sizes and clients, separated them into different statuses so that I can quickly check up where we are at the moment, where we are in the process, and what is super urgent, where I need to coordinate with my teams and to get to be on track with that. So the communication via tickets on Jira is important there. And focus times, as mentioned before. I think this is one of the most important things for me. And I think that's basically it. Getting in touch or staying in touch with regular meetings with the colleagues, of course, is super essential. But keep it short, of course. Those meetings where you have 1 hour for discussing on any kind of projects is not every time that's super necessary. So sometimes also a call of 5 minutes to clarify on some important things.
Understood.
Something better, exactly.
Aleyda, how are you dealing with the situation? I suppose you're working with a variety of clients, right? How do you handle this this tool madness right now? There's so many tools out there, right? And I feel like everyone is using. Of course, there are some probably more popular ones than others, but I feel like there's a bunch of different ones out there. So are you kind of forced to kind of use multiple tools at once, or are you just sticking to one? What's your advice on that front?
Yes, I would say that since I used to work remotely with them since before, right? In the past. We already had, for example, for certain conference calls, I know some clients, they would prefer to use Hangouts because the link is included by default whenever we schedule the call in Google Calendar for business that I have. The other clients that, of course, they have their own company communication system, GoToMeeting, then Zoom, of course. So I think that the ones that I have been using more and more in the latest days is Zoom, right? It seems that, for example, a few companies, they realized that the Hangouts that they used to have didn't work as well. And in this circumstances where they need to have a bigger group type of meetings or calls, sometimes of dozens of people, right? So for that Hangouts, it won't work as well, or they need to record the session
For that, Zoom is great. That's true. Yeah.
Indeed. So what I have seen is that more companies switching to Zoom because of more powerful settings, for sure. That is definitely a trend that I have seen. And then on the other hand, of course, I have had this type of situations that I didn't have in the past, or this usually super professional client that tend to do the calls or the weekly calls that we have every Friday from her office, right? But now she's at home and she has 2 small children, and you can hear them in the background, right? So for that, I have to say there is actually this tool that is called Crisp, Crisp.ai, that is to eliminate or background noises.
Oh, interesting.
And it works really, really well. So I will highly recommend for you to try it. There is a free version too of the tool. So if you somehow, unfortunately, don't have a quiet space to work from, and maybe you have little children yelling or in the background, you can use this tool, Crisp, KRISP, to eliminate background noises.
Very, very good tip. I guess that's true for everyone. But I also feel like, I'm not sure if you agree, but I feel like, we have been spending like probably the last three and a half weeks and just like a lot of conference calls, obviously. And you're completely right. There's a bunch of people that, obviously with families at home, there's no way to prevent that. And I also feel like, that it's perfectly fine or more accepted than it would have been like, let's say, a month ago. Would you agree? What's your take on that?
Oh, yes, of course. Like more accepted that it's not perfect, right?
Exactly.
That there are noises and you can see that, of course. I think that, you know what? I think that this has also given the chance to bring more of the human side of us. With many clients too. So for example, with this particular client that was usually like very American, right? Very straightforward, right to the point, business focused completely. In the last couple of weeks, since she has been working from home, like 10 or 15% of our chats before the actual proper business content has been to, how's everything going? How do you think the business is going, or what do you know about the evolution of the program or the project, etc. Right? Like, and in general, like, are you still healthy, or do you feel okay? So I think it has brought more of a human side in the conversation, and I think it's amazing. It's perfect. I love that part, actually.
I was gonna say, right? I think that's actually really a good thing, because we are all in this entire craziness together. I guess one more than the other, but I suppose like someone has a thing to deal with, which is somewhat caused by the entire situation, right? I would assume, though, I'm not sure if you can confirm or want to confirm, but I would suppose that for remoters, that's probably actually a quite good time, right? There's certainly a high demand in everything, and I think also we linked one of your top tips articles from the Corona Fight website that we launched a while ago. So I think I would imagine, I'm not sure if you confirm or not, but that you have probably high time traffic these days.
Yes, it's amazing, actually, and on that hand, right? But it's big that is happening in this context, right? So March has been our best month so far in remoters, 200% growth year over year. Wow. So for example, last year in March, we had 24K sessions, and last March this year is 73K sessions, and you can definitely see a rise because, of course, like we have been actively working on SEO. My co-founder also in Remoters, she's also on SEO, so we were going to grow anyway, but we were expecting to grow like 100% or 110% maximum, and you can see the peak happening mid-March. Since March 15 or so, you can see like there was a change of trend for the better in traffic since that day. I mean, that would have, everything else would have been crazy. So I guess that so you're one of the winners, at least in this regard. That's really cool. So can you share what are the most kind of requested resources or most read articles that people are looking for right now? Yes. So for example, it took my attention that many of the articles we do this analysis of remote work trends that used to get a lot of organic search traffic, but now it started to get much more than before, for sure, and direct. Also, the people browsing the website and looking for that. Then, of course, I published this checklist or
that's what I want to mention.
Do's and don'ts when starting working from home. That is another one. Then we also have some reviews of better laptops to work remotely.
Oh, okay.
And also we have some reviews of tools to work remotely too.
Right.
So that section also saw a spike. Then when all this craziness started, I started to create many resources that will be more aligned with people working from home. So how to stay fit while staying at home, right? Or top security consideration, we're working from home also.
Which is quite interesting. Like, let me quickly bring this back up, because I think I had this actually even in the, so I just bring the sheet back up because it pretty much relates to what you were saying, right? So there's like cybersecurity risks was on this trend map from Talkwater there as well, right? And you said like setup, which probably ties in quite nicely into this into the laptop situation, right? So yeah, that seems to make a lot of sense then.
Yes, indeed. People looking for, we have, for example, a review of webcams, a review of video conference software, the free versions.
Let me bring this up as well. So where do I need to go? So I go to Remoters, and then where do I find it?
Yes, you go to Remoters/blog, and there you will see the latest how-to guides.
Oh yeah, okay.
Directly. Yeah.
I'll just bring it up that everyone can probably see it as well.
Remoters.net/blog. Yeah.
It's slow, but maybe it's my internet. That could also be. Maybe my daughter is probably streaming Disney Plus or something. That wouldn't surprise me, actually. Okay, that's the how-tos. I see.
Yes, cool. Indeed. So we focus on creating lots of how-tos to how to stay upbeat by creating positive habits also. Yeah. How to survive working from home during lockdown with 3 little kids. That was a guest post from someone who has gone through this situation, right? So a lot of resources that will be more handy in this type of
really scenario. Cool. Yeah, very helpful. That makes sense. Nice. So what is the stuff that you're currently working on? Can you share what's coming up next? Is it how-tos, or is there any other exciting formats that you plan on publishing?
Yes. So yes, we are focusing a lot of the work right now to make it much more easy to follow up with the open jobs, because we have a job section, which is actually is the top section of the website. Yeah. And yes, indeed, we have seen a spike of people looking for more remote marketing jobs or remote development jobs or this type of remote work, because unfortunately it connects with the fact that many people have also been laid off, right? Yeah. Or are out of work. Yeah. Those who are also independent. So this is another of the sections that have had a lot of traffic, an important traffic peak. Then, so this is the thing, we don't charge at all. It's completely free to upload, to publish your remote job advert at this point.
I was going to say, so it's both ways, right? So like companies that are actually looking for remote like support, they can post their kind of job descriptions and advertisement, and also then the other way around, you can obviously go and find it.
Indeed. So any company can come and publish their openings completely for free. Okay. We don't charge that. However, and right now, whenever there's a company publishing their job advert, they will receive a confirmation that your job advert is on, is there, available. Also, you can set if there's a date of to finish the recruiting process, to disable the link to apply. So we have been working more on this type of settings in the latest months to make it much more easier for the company to publish. And now what we are going to do is to make it much more easy for the people looking for jobs to get alerts, to be alerted whenever there's a new opening, matching with a specific type of work. So for example, I want to see jobs that have a higher salary range of 5K in SEO. or that are half-time and have this salary range, right?
Okay,
so this type of
makes
configuration,
sense.
so people can subscribe and get alerts, and it will be much easier than people coming over to the website to look and refresh every time. So this is something that at the moment we're working on, and hopefully we can see. And then on the other hand, this is the thing, right? We have, and this is also heartbreaking and sad to see, I have gotten tons of requests lately of people looking for jobs, right? So we are also assessing what could be the potentially best way to facilitate that for people who are looking for remote work, to do it so in a way that is not like the typical Fiverr, right? We don't want it to head into this type of setting of like whatever freelancer like offering their office for whatever price, right? It's something different. So we are thinking and validating right now what the best approach to do that other type of thing, because yes, right now, unfortunately, we actually, I have to say, I saw that also happening in March. In the last weeks in March, at the beginning, the ratio, the number of jobs adverts that were published were very similar than in February or January, and with increases over time. At the end of March, you could clearly see that there was a decrease. And still today, you can see the first week of April has been probably, I don't know, the worst that I have seen after many months, right? And you can really tell that is, of course, because companies are not hiring at the moment as much. There's a lot of course.
I mean, everyone is kind of holding back and trying to see what's happening next, right? Yeah, I mean, that's probably what it is right now. I mean, we can probably kind of confirm that. I mean, from an agency perspective, I would say what definitely slowed down, of course, is like the new project business. I mean, this week actually for us looked a bit more friendly, but the weeks before, I mean, we were mainly dealing with budget pausing and budget cutbacks and those types of things from companies being kind of affected themselves, right? So I guess as you say, like, I mean, people are still obviously kind of in a waiting pattern. I mean, for some industries that are more affected than others, I suppose that totally makes sense, though.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, actually, even if my client thinks university, right? I did have a couple of clients that were really affected because they were in the travel industry or transportation industry, also affected. So it makes total sense that they are on hold at this point, right? And even if they know the importance of SEO in particular, that there are no enough development resources available, resources available. So there's no way. At the beginning, it was helping them with FAQ or also reputation type of content optimization in order to rank for installations or reimbursement, things like that, right? But realistically, many companies also that haven't necessarily been directly affected have also put on hold their investment because this is a moment of uncertainty, and they don't want to spend if they don't know if in 2 or 3 months they will be to keep up as they expect. Definitely.
Dominique, maybe you want to comment on that one as well, because I think that's something that you've been working on a lot lately as well, right? I mean, you've been dealing with like a lot of kind of inquiries or just requests around the fact that, what should I or me being the company do with my marketing spend, right?
Exactly. We had a lot of questions around that topic because a lot of clients are completely not sure of what to do and how much they can spend or should they spend on any kind of marketing activities at the moment in several industries. I mean, in travel, it's obviously, but also in for many e-commerce clients. It's exactly the same. So I mean, there's not the one perfect answer, but I think we touched on that last week already a bit. I mean, what happens if you postpone or pause everything you're doing in organic search at the moment is maybe not the smartest idea or not the best thing to do at the moment. So
the one thing I just put up onto the stream just to just quickly, because it ties in quite nicely actually to like two of the closing topics that we at least wanted to touch on quickly, is like, so I'm like, this is like an infographic or kind of chart, or whatever you want to call it, from Stackline, and Stackline they did like a comparison of the top 100 fastest growing and declining categories with a focus on e-com in this case. So they compared March last year with March this year. I mean, obviously some things are very, very obvious. I mean, we don't need to talk about the gloves, I suppose, but what I find really interesting though is like stuff like bread machines. I think now I finally understand why in Germany it's almost impossible to buy any more flours. So like it's just like everyone's starting to bake bread apparently. So
I don't understand that. Why everybody?
Thank you.
Like there's an obsession with bread right now, and literally, I mean, why?
But look at the growth. I mean, 652%. I'm not sure if you're watching the stream on the site.
But I know that. I mean, bread with something else is okay, but making bread for making bread. I mean, it's not a main dish.
No, not really. Well, I mean, in Germany, you would probably argue that it could be even a main dish, but I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I guess there's some things, some categories where you like normally that shouldn't have changed. So they highlighted dog food, for example, again on the number 40, where I'm just thinking what's happening is that people are just buying more stuff and just put it somewhere in storage, right? Because they're just all afraid that things run out. So I guess if you're in e-com, so this is a really interesting overview of like very detailed, like I don't know, from fruit cups to sanitizer to pasta and all of those things, where the growth has been, but also so, and again, that doesn't come with much of a surprise, at least if you look into it. The fastest declining categories in terms of demand. And there's a lot of stuff that's obviously around travel that's kind of leading this, right? So luggages, suitcases, cameras, of course, for vacation, swimwear. I think bridal clothing is an interesting one because so we have a client that we work with for quite a while already, Kartenmacherei, which is a German shop that does mainly like invitation cards for everything, and they of course also do like wedding invitations and whatnot. And I guess they can somewhat confirm the numbers because like I mean right now, at least in most of the European countries, like you can't celebrate in the size that you would normally do. So I think the one of the things that we'd be dealing with from a marketing perspective in the mid and even in the long run is that there's like not necessarily because the supply chain is not there, just because right now you can't even properly plan. So I guess that's interesting as well in terms of like how does that impact e-commerce or stores alike, I suppose.
It's interesting to see the behavior because sometimes you expect it, of course. So I expect that, of course, if you are an online communication company, your Slack, your Zoom, if you also sell first necessity type of products, right? But yes, it's funny to see certain products that you wouldn't expect at all. I mean, I expect that people don't start investing right now in shoes, high heels for women, for example. Like there's no point, right? And I'm more in comfortable type of clothing on the other hand, things like that. I don't know, but yes, it's funny. The bread for sure is still a mystery.
Yeah, the bread will probably be a mystery for a while, I suppose. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see what's going to happen there. And then the last thing that I wanted to cover today is that there's so the guys over at WordStream, they do a fantastic job around statistics and numbers and benchmarks, and they literally publish stuff a couple of times a week. And the latest thing that came out just last night is a PPC benchmark where they kind of compare average click-through rates. And I mean, they did one thing already. We talked about it in last week's episode, but they did one thing already the week before. But this is just way more granular, and it kind of ties into this thing that we just looked at from an e-com perspective. So there's a whole bunch of really interesting numbers in here. So there's one great read, not one, but like this one is one if you do paid advertisement. I think that's something that you definitely should have should have a look at because there's a lot of coverage around CPCs. There's industry breakdowns. There is like network comparisons. So how does it compare search versus display and versus in shopping? And then also, and I think this is quite interesting, and this is why I actually brought it up here, is, and I mean, Aleyda, you mentioned already from like an SEO perspective, I mean, no surprise, right, that obviously travel clients, and we have the same, right, kind of are pausing or cutting back budgets because, I mean, if you can't travel at all, why would you even advertise? I think this ties in quite obviously into what's happening on the market as well. But I think if you're like out there doing any kind of business planning or comparison planning and whatnot, I think those benchmark numbers are like really helpful, because I think Dominique mentioned that already last week as well. Like this year-over-year comparison or even month-over-month comparison in the times of a crisis where you have like totally different user behavior, I would say, and also I think where we're seeing a significant shift from paid search, not necessarily from paid search away, but less kind of clicks and more towards like informational queries where potentially SEO then or like organic traffic provides the answer. I think that's really interesting, because so now it's more like this, or even more important than ever probably, like the interplay of figuring out, what am I covering from an SEO perspective, or am I there, especially if I kind of decrease my ad spend, right?
Yeah, the key is actually, of course, you don't want to be paying for clicks that will come to your website to cancel something, right?
Exactly.
For example. But it's about how you allocate the resources to make it more cost effective, and start investing on those actions that will pay off. Maybe not in the short term, but yes, in the mid or the long term for sure. I wanted to actually also mention something now that you talk about the cost per click, right? That there's an obvious decrease across many industries, and it's important to point out that I was talking with a client that is in the news related sector that has been one of the areas, the industries that have seen a overall traffic increase, because people is consuming more information now that they're stuck at home, right? And but he was mentioning me that even if their traffic in general is up, like, I don't know, more than 30%, it's really non-trivial, right? The increase. At the end of the day, the net profit that they have is even a little bit slower or lower than the one that they used to have before, because their spend in ads is less, and now they are showing ads for companies that they didn't tend to show in the past, because there are a lot of big brands that have stopped their spending completely in paid search, right?
That makes total sense. So I guess this interplay becomes even more important than ever. One of the things that I meant to ask your opinion on, Dominique, actually, is I think we talked about it quickly last week as well. Maybe to kind of finish this off, because it ties in quite nicely into like a strategy topic that I'm quite fascinated with. So there was an article on AdAge, actually, which is a subscriber article. That's why I'm not putting it up. You need a subscription for AdAge in this case. But so what they talked about was that Visa is, Visa being one of the main sponsors for the Olympian Games, right? And I guess we all by now at least are aware of the fact that they had to be postponed as well. No surprise there. They still roll out this Olympian themed campaign, right? No matter what, and despite the fact that the games have been postponed. Is that, Dominique, from your perspective, from a content perspective, is that a ballsy move? Is that something like, well, we shouldn't be like interrupting our kind of real life in the sense of like, let's keep some like normality to it? What do you think? Why would they do that? And what's your take on that? Any thoughts on that?
So in general, so the event is postponed for 1 year, or that's clear. So in my opinion, it's not a bad idea to still have any kind of advertisement around that, or any kind of content campaigns, because it's a sports event, right? So this means it's a lot about emotional or emotions at all. So I think it's basically not necessary to stop any kind of content campaigns over there, because they still want to sell any kind of tickets. They still want to stay relevant, and to avoid that they lose any kind of awareness around it. It's the Olympics, so they have slightly enough awareness, I would say. But I think it's still important to get in touch with people and to not lose track on that. So I would say in general, it's not a bad idea to continue in a way of communication with your users or your fans or whatever.
And I suppose it's also maybe a positive like brand image situation, right? Because like you're not pulling out. I mean, I'm not sure what kind of clauses they have in their contracts and whatnot. I mean, let's not go down that route. But I guess what it is though fundamentally is if you're like, well, we are still there. We understand that, you know, it's unfortunate for everyone, but like we continue to support. I think this is also something that has like positive brand impact. No.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking exactly the same. So I'm not aware of what they are doing exactly at the moment, which kind of stories they are having advertisements on, or what kind of content it is. But I would say, yeah, in general, it's not a bad thing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the same for like huge brands are still having any kind of, I don't know, TV advertisement and whatever, even if you are not in a way, or even if it's not possible to buy everything at the moment, of course, because of any kind of delivery issues at the moment or whatever. But it's still not a bad idea to stay there and to be present, I would say. So
your advice would be that like if you're running content campaigns, that I mean, yes, it could potentially be smart to kind of adjust the story or kind of adjust the I would say core message. However, like the rule of thumb should not be just because something is off or is dominated by something like the Corona crisis that pulling out is always the right strategy, right?
Definitely, yes. I mean, a lot of content campaigns are more about like image campaigns and branding campaigns. And there it's basically about being there and show that you are there. No matter what, no matter if you are able to sell your product at the moment or no matter when the event does take place, right?
Yeah.
So,
What's your current, like, I think we talked about it as well, and I think that would be a great update and also a great closing because, again, we managed almost 55 minutes again. Time flies. So what is the current situation in the market? Like, I mean, I think you mentioned last week that was especially in Germany, but also in some other markets, it was a bit harder or pretty hard, and especially for German related coverage to score anything that's outside of this entire Corona kind of coverage scenario, I would say, or coverage situation. Did that change? Is it still the same? Are you seeing like an uptick on other content being picked up as well? Like from your perspective, what's the current status there?
Yeah, I'm in touch with our content marketing team all the time to get some feedback on how it's going in German speaking countries at the moment. And it's very, I cannot really say that it's changing already. I would say it's slightly the same. So in the UK, it's working better than ever. It seems to be. So I asked a lot of people over there, and journalists are super happy to get any kind of content which they can feature on their articles.
Maybe because they don't want to talk about it anymore. Yeah.
I mean, they have a lot of entertaining content at the moment, and of course also some kind of educational content as well. But in Germany, it's still, I mean, the response rate is super, super slow. I've never experienced that before. So it takes a lot of time for journalists to get back on content which is not related on Corona or on current news. So this is something I still see in Germany, but also in France. And in the Netherlands, it's exactly the same. So I cannot still see that there's something on change at the moment. I'm still on evaluating that a bit more based on data. So checking on what kind of backlinks and coverage we have at the moment and at the largest public or media outlets in Germany. But don't have the data done yet. So maybe next week.
Then. You have the Easter weekend to get it sorted.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I guess we have to come to an end. Otherwise, people will get mad at me if we overrun the hour. So I guess for a closing, first of all, a very, very big thank you, Aleyda, for taking the time to join us. I think that was super helpful, super educational. We will be sharing like a couple of the resources and things that you mentioned, like the job section, the how-to guides and whatnot, so that people can find it. I think that's super helpful, especially in times like these, where kind of everyone is looking for guidance in a situation of where you kind of are at least a bit more alone than you would be compared to when you're working in an office and not quarantined yourself. So yeah, thanks very much for taking the time to join us. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Perfect. So I wish you both a lovely Easter weekend and speak to you very soon. I think this is pretty much it. We say goodbye for PK's on Air episode 2 and speak to you after the Easter break. Bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.